Hello, guys. Today I talked to Tyson Brown, a very good mate of mine who's a very experienced personal trainer and a nutrition expert. Now, Tyson was actually one of the boys I went over to the Kokoda track with last year, and he really has some great information regarding nutrition for the trail. And we dive into some really common nutrition questions I hear from hikers preparing for their adventures. So with that being said, let's get into it. Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare and conquer your upcoming hike, trek or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome, Tyson. Thanks for coming on the show, mate. Absolutely stoked to have you on board. So for the guys who haven't come across Tyson before, he's a personal trainer extraordinaire, a nutrition expert, and he's also known as the sweatiest hiker alive.
That's it.
For everyone listening, do you want to just give us a little bit of background about who you are, what you do, and then what's got you into what you do as a professional sense at the moment?
Yeah, okay, cool. So I've been doing personal training for about 6 years now. Obviously started off a little bit overweight, lost some weight, kind of fell into loving the process of knowing how to change myself and then wanting to help other people do that. So I got into the personal training side of things. And then I started focusing more and more on nutrition because I found it was so interesting that you can have like one thing affects so many aspects of your life, from your energy, your mood, how you look, everyday living, like you're dependent on nutrition. So I started kind of going down that route, and that's when I became a nutritionist. I now am a certified sports nutritionist, and I'm looking to go down the dietetics realm. So yeah, like that's kind of my professional moment. It's more about the nutrition side of things and less about the training. So how to basically make sure, especially on the sports side of things, whether you're a hiker, whether you're a powerlifter, whatever you are doing, how you can best use nutrition to either fuel your performance, make you lose weight to achieve your goal, whatever it's going to be. I'm looking at how nutrition is going to get you there.
Yeah, unreal. And for those who like, as well, a little bit of backstory, me Tyson was one of the blokes that I went to Kokoda with last year. So that's where the title of the sweatiest guy alive popped up. And you've literally never seen anyone dripping in sweat like him in the first couple of days.
So good.
So it'd be really great today to pick your brains a little bit around nutrition for the trail, because I know you got a wealth of knowledge around this. And also you've got like a decent experience, like those experiences on the trail, sort of how, certain situations, which will be good for a lot of people listening, and get some great information out of it. So we're just going to dive right into the questions. So if a really common thing for many, many hikers leading into a trip is they'll say that they just need to drop a few kilos before they head off. Maybe they haven't been on a big trip for a while. Maybe they've just put on a few kilos recently, and everyone is pretty aware if they're a little bit lighter, they do feel quite a bit better on the trail. So if someone was to want to drop a few kilos, say over a few months before a trip, what would they be wanting to focus on?
Well, I think the best thing for that is someone who they want to prepare ahead as much ahead of time as they can, right? Because the longer you have, like let's say I knew last year that I was going to do Kokoda. I think we started planning around February. So I had a fair bit of time to be able to kind of plan out in advance how I want to be up towards that. And the longer time frame you've got, the slower you can actually focus on losing the weight without it affecting your performance, right? Because you're obviously going to be training for the trail, and you don't want to be clonking out on walks or clonking out on hikes or anything like that up towards that. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to help with your fitness level. So the best thing I would say first is to make sure you try and give yourself as much time as possible to lose weight. And then the biggest thing is obviously you don't want to affecting your performance. So making sure that you're having small adjustments in your calories to reduce them, because the way we obviously lose weight is by eating fewer calories than we burn. So if you were to just like, let's say if on average you were to burn 2,500 calories a day and you need to lose, let's say 4 kilos, and you're going to be going on a trip in 4 months, right? So you need to lose about 1 kilo a month, which is pretty doable for most people, like very, very easy with small nutritional changes. And what that's going to be doing is it's not enough to affect your hiking ability, to affect your performance, but it's a long enough time to slowly watch that weight creep off so then you can hit your goal target by when you're ready to hike. So it's all about looking at how long you've got, how much of a reduction you need to make in your calories, and then how that's going to affect your performance. So the longer you've got, the smaller the reduction you have to make, and also the less it's going to impact your performance. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then if someone was looking at making those reductions, where would somewhere they could start?
So obviously you'd look at like just general stuff first. It would be like obviously your fast foods. If you're eating a lot of fast foods, takeaways, high calorie things that you would actually have on the trails on when you're actually doing it is not what you want to have when you're training for your hiking. So if you're thinking about, a lot of people use trail mixes, a lot of people use nuts, a lot of people use dextrose powders, and a lot of carbohydrate powders, which are fine for when you're actually when you're on the track and you're doing it. But if you're on the lead up to it and you're just doing training, those things are going to be really calorie dense. And so if you can reduce those things, what that's going to happen is that's going to make an easier reduction in your calories. And also just doing like simple swaps. If you're having whole milk, you swap it to skim milk. If you're going to be having whole fat yogurt, you swap it to low fat yogurt. You're having fatty cuts of meat, you reduce it to lean cuts of meat. Because a lot of people who are training for this are doing long distances, you're going to be burning a fair bit of calories just in your movement in general, right? So you're going to be increasing your calorie burn by the amount of training you're doing, and then you just make little reductions, and by swapping nutritional things out, like I said, your fast foods, your high fat foods, and things like that. And what that's going to do, it's going to be basically, it's not a lot of thought to it. It's just going to be using reductions here and there to help you offset that calorie burn to lose some weight.
Yeah, nice one. And that's definitely something that anyone, it's pretty straightforward for people to go about. And I know for myself, like a lot of hikers come in to talk to me, they're like, look, I need to lose weight. I go down this diet I've done in the past and I've lost X amount of kilos in a couple of weeks. But the common story is always, look, I've done this and then I bounce back, and I do it and I bounce back. And a lot of that stuff is, just, we all know it's not sustainable, but we like to trick ourselves that it probably is something that we can stick to for a bit of a longer period of time if we really put our head to it. So it's great, like talking about those small changes, which, as you said, fit into your life quite easily. And then over the long term, it can make a difference just naturally.
Yeah, and like a lot of people, when they say they want to lose weight, they're expecting to see like kilos go down during the week. Like they want to be at the end of the week and be like, oh, I haven't lost a kilo, or I haven't lost 2 kilos. What's going on? But like you've got to think, if you're doing that much of a rapid weight loss, that's really going to affect your day-to-day life, your energy, your mood, your performance with your hiking, all those things. And that's not what you want. Like, and a lot of people, especially like just in general, everyone thinks carbohydrates are the enemy. And if you're getting rid of carbohydrates, which are your predominant fuel source, especially for what you guys do, you're going to notice it on the trip and you're going to start clunking out. So don't cut to carbohydrates. Your potatoes, your oats, all your whole grains, all those things are still really important. So you want to keep those in, and you just want to focus on those small little drops on the scale. Because if, like I said, if you've got 4 kilos to lose over 4 months, and if you're losing a quarter of a kilo to half a kilo a week, you're going to hit that goal by that target time. So don't be in a rush. Make sure you can plan it out and take your time to lose slowly and incrementally over time.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think that just gives some people some really good stuff to work off there. Moving on from the weight loss now, we want to talk a little bit about improving performance on the trail. So there's a few topics I want to touch on. To start with is a question I got the other day. And if there was something I was talking about with one of my clients the other day, is if a hiker had a really, really early start in the morning and they were heading off on a big hike. So whether some people head off on their 1 a.m., 2 a.m. starts, some people are heading off at 5 a.m. starts. What could they do to nutritionally ensure that they have enough fuel in the tank to get them through those first few hours?
Yeah, so I would actually say you would want a combination of fats and carbohydrates for your breakfast. Okay, so this would be obviously it depends on where you are, what you're able to pack, and things like that. But if you can think of a piece of fruit, like a banana, which is going to have fiber and carbohydrates in it, and you might have, let's say, a jar of peanut butter, which is calorie dense, or you've got your trail mix, or if you are able to have oats, anything that's a slow digesting carbohydrate, so like a whole grain is what you want to think of, because that's going to give you prolonged energy over the next couple of hours versus like a burst up and then coming back down. And then also the fats, because what the fats are going to do along with the carbohydrates is going to slow down digestion even more, and you're going to have that slow fuel burn. So if you were to think about fats, you've got nuts, avocado, peanut butter, dark chocolate might be something you can keep in your pocket. Just easy things to take, because obviously I've got to be considerate about what they're actually able to take on the track. And then your carbohydrates, your oats, rice. I would say bananas more than anything, because they're the most calorie dense fruit, and they're also you can get them in small amounts. Like dried fruit too would be a good idea. But yeah, any of those carbohydrate sources along with a fat source, and based on how much you're able to eat. So like for me, if you remember on our track, I actually didn't eat breakfast. I would have caffeine, and that would prolong me for a couple of hours. However, everyone's going to be different. So if you want to have that energy, you make sure that you have, and you know you need to eat, then you make sure you need to have carbohydrates and fats as your fuel source first thing in the morning.
And if someone was in the situation where first thing in the morning their stomach was a little bit like they struggled to have some bigger meals, and that they still were aware that if they didn't eat anything, they personally don't feel amazing in the first couple of hours, is there any sort of workarounds they could deal with that?
As if they wanted to have something small versus something large because of their stomach?
Yeah, just something that just sits in the stomach a bit better.
Probably dried fruit. I would say dried fruit's really easy to have. Again, trail mix. Or you could even have like a dextrose powder or something that you can just drink. That's not going to upset your stomach or feel like it's like just sitting in your stomach, and it's easily absorbable by the body. Dried fruit would be like a perfect example of that too. If you want to buy something, but if not, you got maltodextrin, you've got dextrose powder, there are the energy gels, any of those things you can just sink back without even having to worry about it.
Yeah, nice. Too easy. And then if someone's actually on the trail and they've got a big day on the trail, they've got a big few days on the trail, what can they do to ensure that they don't hit that wall in energy, or also known as bonking, that many people are familiar with during a big day of movement?
Yeah. Again, it all comes down to your fuel sources. So you've got to think about what can you carry in your bag versus what's going to be like realistically. So a lot of people, like with our stuff, we got chips, we got Tim Tams, we got all these processed foods which are high in fats and carbohydrates, which are great, but they give you energy spikes if you're having them by yourself. So you'll get that little bit of energy, then you'll need something else to keep topping it up. So if you can carry more lower glycemic foods and mix it with fats, so if you've got your trail mixes, which are really going to be good, if you've got beef jerky for your protein or biltong, you've got your little, what are they called? Not energy bars. I can't even think of it. Oh yeah, like energy bars, like Cliff bars and stuff like that. All of those things are going to be able to give you sustained energy throughout the day. And you really want to be eating every 2 to 3 hours, especially if you're doing the long walks, just to keep topping up that energy source so you're not hitting that clunk during the day.
Yeah, easy. And that's you go.
I was about to say, also another good thing is people like, can you take caffeine? Whether it be a pre-workout, whether it be instant coffee, whatever it is, caffeine is also going to help improve your performance, or improve your hike over the time without clunking out. Because when you have caffeine and carbohydrates, it's the ultimate fuel source to help you go long and hard for distances.
Yeah. And we had that mini disaster on the trail in Kokoda where we hit, day 4 or 5, and we ran out of coffee for a day.
Yeah, spewing. We were dying then, hey?
Stressing out there, but the boys looked after us, so we were happy.
Yeah.
So if someone was, let's talk about training for a little bit. If a hiker was training for a big adventure, so maybe they're doing the training hikes, maybe they're doing work in the gym, maybe they're doing hill intervals, whatever. What could they do nutritionally both before and after a workout to sort of aid that process?
Yeah, okay. So, again, we're going to come back to, carbohydrates and caffeine has been studied so well, and it's just it's the go-to thing before a workout, right? If you have carbohydrates with caffeine, you are going to have a very good workout, or hike or hill intervals, whatever you're going to do, because you're using your fuel source of your carbohydrates, and you're also going to have the performance enhancing effects of caffeine, right? So if you were to, let's say, if you're an hour away from your workout, you would want more of a high glycemic index carbohydrate, right? So for me, that would be like a cereal, something easy to digest. Cereal, dried fruit, even some white rice, rice crackers, anything that's really easy to eat that's not going to upset your stomach. And then, or you could have a Powerade with some caffeine, like caffeine tablet or some coffee or anything like that. Basically, that's going to be your combination. The further away you are, so let's say if you woke up at 5 o'clock, you weren't going to work out until 8 o'clock, again, we want that lower glycemic index carbohydrates first, so we got that sustained energy. So then you would have your oats, or you would have your brown rice, or you would have some whole grain toast with some peanut butter or something like that earlier on. So the further away from the workout, the more lower glycemic index. The closer to the workout, the more high glycemic index, okay? And we want to keep it at least 1 to 3 hours before the workout to be able to fuel yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's going to help with your workout. Then after the workout, you've broken down muscle, so you're going to need protein to be able to recover from that. So that could come in the form of protein powder if you don't have anything to eat, or you have chicken, fish, red meat, dairy, like low-fat Greek yogurt, anything like that to help recover your muscle. And then also, again, another good serving of carbohydrates. So I'll give you an idea for me. In the morning, I will have oats with peanut butter and some protein powder. I'll have that at 6 o'clock. My workout's going to be at 9 o'clock. Then after I finish my workout, I will have some protein powder with some cereal, just something really quick digesting straight after my workout, and I can go on with my day. That way I've got energy before the workout, and that way I've also got I'm replenishing myself after the workout and recovering my muscles.
Yeah, awesome. And then with the caffeine before a workout, and I saw you put something up a while ago, and I'll be curious to ask you anyway. If someone does do caffeine quite regularly, and they love their caffeine for work, they love it for training, and they sort of get to the stage where they're basically building up tolerance, and it's not really affecting them so much. Is there anything they can do to help there?
Yeah, it's very hard because to reduce your tolerance, you have to reduce your caffeine amount, right? So a lot of people will have to wean themselves off. It's not actually a long time, 1 to 2 days, and you can actually regenerate your caffeine sensitivity. So, even if, let's say, you train 4 days of the week, and then maybe you're like, you know what, this Saturday and this Sunday, I'm not going to have any caffeine. You repeat that. So you go Monday to Friday caffeine, Saturday, Sunday off, and you can repeat that. Or whenever days you aren't working out, you just take a little break from caffeine, or you reduce your amount of caffeine. That's going to help rebuild your sensitivity, right? Now, also, like someone like me, I'm a slow metabolizer of caffeine, so I can have one shot and just be like wired. But other people are going to be fast metabolizers, which means they're going to need to have more caffeine. So what you can also do is play around with how much you're going to have before your workout, because you can have anywhere from 3 milligrams per kilo. So which means that would be 300 milligrams for me, which is 3 shots of coffee, to 5 or 6 milligrams. So like literally 6 shots of coffee before your workout to get really good effects. Now, obviously, if you can tolerate that, okay, go for it. Like that would send me sky high and I'd be having heart palpitations. But yeah, play around with that. So just think 1 shot of coffee is 100 milligrams, right? And you would dose it by your body weight. So 3 to 6 milligrams. So if you're going to have 3 milligrams per kilo, that would be, if you're 100 kilos, that's 300 milligrams, etc.
Yeah. And those numbers, I remember the first time I looked them up when we were doing a subject at uni around that and improving performance. And when I did the maths around how much coffee, like the upper limits of recommendations for, elite athletes are, I was blown away.
Mate, it's really ridiculous. Scary. Yeah. And I'm like, who's doing this much caffeine,
Oh, mate. A big worry, hey?
Yeah. And like even the low dose, like they say 3 milligrams, between 3 and 6. Mate, if I have 300 milligrams before a workout, I'm seeing stars. I'm just too much,
Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
Before we were talking about weight loss, and there's if people were trying to lose weight before a trek, another common issue for many hikers on an extended trek, so whether they're going for a week, multiple weeks, multiple months, is they're worried about losing weight. So they might be people who put a little work into building muscle and they're worried about that, but also the people who are just don't have a huge amount of body fat on them day-to-day life, and then on the extended days on the trail, they lose a lot of weight. So if this was in this situation, what could they do to help prevent this? So
if you could, ideally, if you have the weights to be able to carry, I would suggest getting a weight gainer. You see those protein, like those supplement companies, they have like the weight gainer shakes type of thing. They're probably going to be a really good idea for someone in this situation who may not have a big appetite, going to be doing long distances for long periods of time. To be able to drink something to keep those calories really high is going to be a really good opportunity for people. Now, obviously, again, that just comes down to how much weight you can carry and things like that. So if you can't go that route, Then again, we look at the higher calorie foods. So these would be foods that are high in fat. So if you carry jars of peanut butter, dark chocolate, again, your trail mixes, because they're mixed with dried fruit, they're mixed with nuts, things like that. They're going to be high in fat. They're going to be high in calories. Muesli, so just toasted muesli or anything like that, which is similar to a trail mix. You've got nuts just on their own. You could be having, depends on also what the trackers and stuff have got. So always looking for more calorie dense foods that you can bring with you. Even nut bars, like literally chocolate bars, stuff like that you can just smash down. All the stuff that we got given on the track, all that heavy calorie stuff is going to be really good to be able to eat if you want to sustain your weight. So for you, or for someone in that particular circumstance, they would want the more refined stuff, the more high calorie stuff that's just going to keep them stable with their weight.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's and that makes perfect sense there. When going on from snacks, is what would be some other high quality snacks that you might recommend that a hiker could bring on either a day hike or on a longer trek just to fuel themselves over the hours of movement?
I think Cliff Bars were great. You had some Cliff Bars when we went, didn't you?
Yeah.
So Cliff Bars, there's actually a fair few hiking brand bars, which I haven't really looked into. You could probably tell people what they are, but I think those bars are very good quality to be able to give you a fair bit of energy, and they're very, very compact, which is great. And they don't taste like cardboard. I can eat a Cliff Bar every day. I would also suggest, again, like trail mixes, fruits to be able to take with you. I'm having a mind blank now. Just there's something. Hang on, I just got a note here. This is what I wrote down. What else have we got? Energy gels. So again, like what the marathon runners and things use, like those little energy gels that you can suck on, stuff like that too. They're not going to take up a lot of room. You can have one of them every couple of hours, and they're just going to keep you going, because they've actually got those energy gels are plenty of carbohydrates to keep you going for 1 to 2 hours until you're going to need another one.
Yeah, and that's definitely something most people have access to, and it's such a simple thing designed exactly for that situation. But many hikers, I know, just overlook them. Like, they just say they're not a marathon runner, they're not a triathlete. Why would I need them? But they can definitely help you out in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like when you look at the energy systems we use, like when people, whether you're running, whether you're walking, when you go into those prolonged periods of time, carbohydrate becomes our fuel source, right? So those gels are going to be perfect for people who are doing hikes and doing treks, whether it be one day, wherever it's going to be, because we're going to be utilizing roughly the same type of energy source as a marathon runner.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more there. And then the final question here that I wanted to go through is, in general, like if a hiker was struggling for energy during the day, during their training or during their hiking, whether it's energy, fatigue, whatever, what areas could they look at here to help them out?
So there would be a couple of things. One, they could be low in electrolytes, right? Because they could be sweating a lot, like me. And if you're low in electrolytes, that could be causing an issue. So making sure you have like hydrolyte with you to be able to top up your electrolytes. Could be magnesium deficiency. And it's also like how big of if they're trying to lose weight, like, are you in too much of a calorie deficit? Are you trying to lose too much weight too quickly, and it's making you feel fatigued? It's making you feel low on energy, because if you're not eating enough fuel just in general, you're going to be feeling it. So ask yourself, like, okay, if you're trying to lose weight and you're noticing that your performance is really, really poor, and you're losing weight really quickly, though, you're obviously losing weight too quickly, and it's affecting other areas, which you don't want that to do. So I would look at that. I would make sure, am I fueling during my training and before my training? Am I having something to eat beforehand, like a big meal a couple of hours beforehand? And am I fueling during it? Because a lot of people, for me, for instance, like I didn't really look into this when I first started, and I just decided, I'm going to go for a 4-hour walk, whatever it's going to be. Little did I think about taking anything but a water bottle with me or eating a big meal beforehand. And like the differences that makes when you have when you have enough fuel for your walking, it's completely different. You're going to notice it night and day with how far you can walk, how fast you're walking, how much energy you have. Like, there's a lot that goes into fueling for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, couldn't agree more there. And it's such a common thing I see from my clients and other hikers is they'll say that, look, I've gone on a hike and I struggled for energy, and I ask, how much did you eat? And it's sort of like that. I had a bottle of water and an apple in my 6-hour hike. And you're like, All right, that's common. It's easy solution there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, do you want me asking, what have you found that works for your clients in regards to nutrition stuff? Like, what are people take? Are you giving people to take Cliff Bars and stuff like that, or what are you doing?
Generally, like the first thing I usually say for my clients is, as I said, most people undereat that I'm dealing with. So I give them the task that even every hour I want them to eat something small. So not even those 2 to 3 hours, but like just force them, because it might not be necessary, but just to get that food in. And then it's sort of the combination, a lot of stuff you said. So things like, the trail mix, the dried fruit, and the Cliff Bars, if they struggle for fitting stuff in there. The liquid calories, like I love like Tailwind electrolytes, which I was having on the trail.
Yeah.
It's got so much carbohydrates and electrolytes in it. And then talking like through like very, very quick digesting stuff, which just to get food in. So like you're talking about before, cereal and, some oats in the meal times and stuff like that. So really similar stuff to what you were recommending. And it's just a huge portion of what I coach in nutritionally is on the trail, at least. It's just to eat it. And that's probably the big priority I really push.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and like you said, all those things that they're just overlooked by a lot of people, like especially now that we do have the carbohydrate powders, we have the hydrolyte powders. You have a lot of things that are very, very accessible and that aren't going to take up a lot of space. Because again, we obviously are limited by weight and space and things like that. So the more we can find there are options coming out for the hikers and stuff like that, the easier it's going to be for them to, whether it be have energy, maintain weight, improve their performance, whatever it's going to be, that's going to be available for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that'll probably do us today. So thank you very much for coming on for the chat, Tyson. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing a bit of knowledge for all the hikers out there. If anyone wanted to check you out online and find your stuff, because you're pretty prolific online with a whole bunch of quality information, or potentially work with you in any area, where would they find you and how could they get in contact?
I think the easiest thing would be Instagram, and it's Tyson the Trainer with 2 R's. It's pretty much where I'm, on 24/7 doing my stories, doing my Instagram stuff. So that's probably the best place to find me.
Yeah, too easy. And for anyone listening, I'll drop that in the show notes below. And if you are interested in nutrition at all, definitely follow him on Instagram. There's so much quality information going up every day. So thanks again for coming on, mate. And I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, dude. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Training for Trekking podcast. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes. So thanks for getting involved, and we'll see you on the next one.